Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lennius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I have a question. Can we change the agenda to move the closed session to the very end instead of, because it might take quite a while.
I'll explain it to you later, okay? It's a cost saving.
Always trust.
If we move it to the end, everyone leaves and they don't get to hear our closing remarks.
Mike, the reason why we have it up there is because we have two attorneys tonight. One attorney that's going to be talking to us during the closed session. So instead of paying him for the whole meeting, we thought we'd just pay him for
Okay,
that amount of time.
That's what I was gonna say, but I was gonna wait till later.
I understand.
Don't you feel bad now?
No, we don't.
No, I really feel bad.
Okay, I do have a motion to accept or approve the agenda. Did I get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. We have nobody signed in for the public comment. So petition from the public is Elizabeth, is it Gazer? Is that how it's, Granger? Okay, sorry.
Hi, good evening. Full disclosure, I had to Google etiquette for city council meetings, so first time up here, and
Just
my
start,
name
I
is
say, I'm sorry, start with, we need your name and address.
Elizabeth Grazier, 611 4th Street Southeast on the 2nd Ward.
Okay,
So my only issue here today is the 2nd Ward sidewalk repairs that were approved for a non-local business to secure the work that is going to be performed. We're all about local businesses, and at no time was local business sourced to look at the bidding or offers for this job, similar to what they do for snow removal. There's a bid taken out, and on this situation, there was nothing. The council secured a company to do not only assess the work, but to complete the work in not the most cost-efficient manner. So there was $80 a slab, not to exceed $80 a slab. And there are two local businesses, one in town, one right outside of town, that support local taxpayers and people employed from those businesses that are also residents and constituents. And I know for a fact that it was not the most cost-efficient bid because both of those other companies offer lower bids to make the concrete within the ADA requirements. That is what the letter that was sent out to the residents stipulates. I feel it was a conflict of interest for that company to come in with almost an open checkbook. The city went around and marked the sidewalks at a half an inch, which is what is in the code of the City of Independence. And then this other company came in and remarked the sidewalks. And one example I have is one resident went from 2 slabs up to 19 slabs that need to be repaired because the company that was secured by the city decided to go with a 1/4 inch instead of a 1/2 inch, which can be argued under the ADA requirements. If you look up the actual requirements, it is between a half an inch or between a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. So not only did the city secure a non-local business to do this work, then they sent out papers or advertisements, if you will, to every resident that was affected by this, and they advertised this non-local company. The letter also says it needs to be completed within 30 days, but that's very unclear as to whether it's 30 days from the date that the letter was sent or 30 days from the date that you call the city to notify them of getting work elsewhere. And then when I contacted the city manager, Mr. Roeder, I was told that there is a June completion date. So I'm uncertain as to what the definition is of 30 days. The company that was retained, they are compromising the integrity of the concrete. The city code also said there should be 4 inches of concrete poured on the slab, and which is to be inspected if you replace your slab of concrete. This is removing part of that slab of the concrete, and that is compromising the integrity, which also, and I'm not saying that concrete cutting isn't always the best way to do it. In some instances it is. I do own a concrete company that does the lifting and cutting to secure or to make the requirements of ADA. And so I am versed in this, but I do know that once you start to cut parts of the concrete off, you do compromise the integrity of it, which could cause future issues. Those are my topics that I wanted to talk about today. Do you guys have any questions for me? And I'd like to know if it's 30 days or what the requirements are and why we chose to go with a non-local company.
The group actually came to us and agreed to do that whole section of town and mark what needed to be done for us, free of charge.
Right.
Nobody else has come in to make that offer. We will be doing other wards, so you will have that right if you want to do that as a free thing
Right.
before doing anything. And anybody that needs work done can go to anybody to have it done. So you can contact any of the individuals that you see the markings on their sidewalk and make them an offer to do it for less. They have that right, and then they can opt out
Right.
of what we're doing otherwise. And it doesn't have to be done, they have to do it then by next spring if they decide to have it done themselves. The company that we're working with will have the work done within 30 days from once we know who's in it and who isn't.
Right. And with all due respect, they did a bid, basically, and most companies will do bids free of charge. Our company would have done a bid for you or assessed what work needed to be done free of charge, as would most companies. And because they knocked on your door, I don't feel that it's right that you didn't contact local companies that pay our taxes here. That was the most cost-efficient bid, and also are your constituents. So,
You know,
Go ahead.
they're right. This company did contact us, but, you know, this isn't something that any one company is gonna do for everybody. And I'm thinking, and this is just my initial thought, maybe we should be letting the people of Independence know, and maybe we should provide them a list of people that they can contact, such as this. You know, they're not really being told, and if we just let this one out there, they're probably gonna go that direction, or, you know, a lot of people will. Maybe we need to take it upon ourselves, if we're not gonna bid all this work and do everything else, which probably we're not, because people are gonna have all kinds of options to repair their sidewalk. Maybe to be fair, and it's not just to be fair to, it's Elizabeth.
Elizabeth?
It's not really just to be fair to Elizabeth, but maybe we need to be fair to other people, and even the citizens, to say, okay, here's a list of people that you can contact. Because it's a little bit, for her to go around, or for anybody to go around to each house and knock on it and say, here I am, that's a little bit not very effective. But I guess I'd like other people's comments on what if we provided them, the citizens, a list of the people who services are available from, and then they can choose.
How far out do we go?
Well, it sounds like we're going out to June.
Well, like surrounding
making-
Well, I don't know. I don't really have a problem with providing outside of town, but I think we should provide inside. The the businesses inside town, you know, they accept, I'm assuming you accept the competition from outside.
Absolutely.
So I don't really care how far out we go if somebody from Dubuque wants to do it. But somehow or another, I think we ought to provide a list of options to the people rather than kind of, I won't really say push them down this path, but it kind of does push them down that path.
The one concern that I would have with that is, I'm not sure that any of us would have a comprehensive list of all the people that might do this type of work. And as soon as we start giving a list that leaves somebody off, we have the same issue, only worse, because we said these are all the people that do the work, but we ignored Elizabeth or whoever might be her counterpart in another firm. We have encouraged every opportunity we've had to, if you want to do it yourself, please do. we're okay with that. We're okay with you hiring anybody you think can do the job for you. If you can do it more cost effectively, we've encouraged that. And we've had a number of people calling and asking the question. We've reassured them that we would work with them any way we can. We have not, contrary to Elizabeth's comments, advertised. We have provided an opportunity to correct the situation. However, at no point is anybody obligated to use that. That has never been suggested that that is their only option. We talked about this at length about here's a way to have it done. One challenge that we had last year, yes, we marked the sidewalks. Most of the people, to their credit in the first ward, addressed the issue before we ever got back to recheck it. I don't know what the percentage is. It's not 100%, but it would be, I'd have to say 70 or 80% of the people just went out and took care of it. That's fantastic. But we still are investing staff time to go back, review it, to fix it a second time, whatever the case might be. One thing that is not being considered, yes, somebody can do it at whatever the number is, and I'll let them talk about that. But at no point is anybody concerned about the staff time, the taxpayer money that we put into not only the initial review, but the follow-up reviews, the people that are opting out. We still have to go back and verify that the work has been done. The ones that have asked, we have told them that they have until June to do it, because some of them are more extensive than others. We have shared that pretty openly with the folks that have called. I am concerned about trying to provide a comprehensive list because we will leave somebody off. Somebody will say, hey, I can do that, why didn't you put my name on there? And I think that creates a greater challenge.
Should we have done a bidding process?
At this point, we have no obligation to bid the service portion of it, the inspection. That's what we have done to this point. I'm not sure what we bid until we know, we might not have 5 spots left to fix. I mean, I don't know.
I can
got
see a
3 myself.
problem, I can see a problem with the bidding process, because you don't know exactly, some people might want to grind, some people might need to lift, some people might need to replace it. I don't know exactly what we bid.
I know from experience, we had 3 sections of concrete leading up to my wife's business that had heaved and needed to be addressed, and this was several years ago. And we tried to find somebody in the area that did mud jacking. They didn't do it anymore. They had quit doing it. Now the polylift has become an option. At that time, it wasn't. Trying to find a contractor that'll come in to do 3 squares of concrete is very, very difficult, especially on a timely basis. And we really jumped through hoops trying to find people to do it, and we finally found one that would do it. But it's a difficult, difficult situation. I applaud you guys for having the technology now that can do that, because it would certainly have been a lot more cost-effective option for me. But it's, a lot of these contractors don't want to mess with little jobs like that. They just, that's not their bailiwick. They can make a lot more money doing a whole driveway.
And absolutely, in another city, we may consider that, but in our hometown, we're not only, we were cutting the expenses for the residents just because of that fact.
Yeah.
It is something that's growing. It's, polylifting is a growing business, and therefore 3 years ago, it wasn't local. It is now. The work, it does say in the letter that the work must be completed within 30 days. So I don't, Mr. Roder, I don't know where where June came into it, other than what you had just
That's what
stated.
we have granted those that have called and asked, yes.
So a suggestion maybe would be not to just throw out, I'm not looking for advertisement. I didn't even mention my business's name, okay? Maybe if you just suggested other options. On here it says, if you want to repair the affected panels yourself, well, there's not a lot of people out there that have concrete saws or can do that type of work. But maybe if you say there are other options, because here it looks like the only options you have is to either inform the city if you're going to replace it completely, or to go through this other company that's been advertised throughout this letter multiple times. So maybe just putting out options that you do have local options and that sawing may not be the only option available. I'm not saying we need to.
Well, I think we get to a point where we don't want to challenge the intelligence of the citizens. And if it says you do if I read that, I know I can't do the work, but I know that I can look in the yellow pages and I can see who does concrete work.
You're right, and the
And I
city
can
could have
call.
done that too.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that sidewalk projects have always been a nuclear bomb. Nobody likes to do sidewalk projects. City of Jessup, you can talk to their people over there. Yeah, we have told people that they don't have to use this company. And it's just simply an option out there to use. I guess to me, the only thing that's making people mad is they may have done the approaching first. But we left the door open. We didn't say this company's doing all of the work and you have no choice.
When I inquired about it, I was told that my business, the city council didn't feel that my business had the resources to do the assessing. No one asked me, no one contacted me, and had I known that there would have been, that you were doing a city sidewalk project and we're gonna secure a firm to not only do the bidding, but also do the work, you bet I would have knocked on the door, but I didn't know that that was an option at the time. So here I am in front of you saying, please shop local, okay? You encourage us to do it, please shop local.
Hey, Liz, I got one question. When you first started talking, you said something about the requirements went from a half an inch to a quarter inch. What, kind of elaborate on that a little?
Under Chapter 136 of the City of Independence Ordinance, it says that the city code is a half of inch or more of horizontal separation. If you look at the ADA requirements or what was referenced on the paper that went out to the residents, it says that the American with Disability Act is required to be be leveled if it's more than a quarter of an inch. And when you look up the ADA requirements, it does say from a quarter to an inch to from a quarter of an inch to a half an inch. So it kind of gives you that, there's a little bit of leeway in there. But according to this paper, it's quarter inch. Quarter to the city code, it is half an inch. So.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think in the future that city is going to look at each ward each year. And I think it would be great if you guys would approach us on it because
Absolutely,
it could be a good opportunity for not only you, but the citizens also.
for sure.
We will be back next year for Third Ward. And this is our second year, so this is not new. This is not a surprise, or should not be a surprise to anybody, because we did go through the process last year as well. And the intent, just to rewind us here a little bit, the intent is to go through all 5 wards, one a year. And in the 6th year, we'll be back in Ward 1. And, you know, as several people have, including Elizabeth, have pointed out, it is Iowa. We have a tendency to find some ground shifting with the freeze-thaw cycle, so there'll be issues that were, fixed last year, or maybe even this year, that, you know, we might see others. So that's not unforeseeable.
As she's pointed out, there is the discrepancy between the quarter and a half inch. Can a citizen contact Doug or contact, if they want to appeal it, if they're a half inch and they have that? I mean, that might be why there's 19 instead of what Doug marked. Can they appeal that we don't, to get that?
What drives this whole thing?
Come on up, Doug.
What drives this whole thing is ADA. And that's where it's driving it in every city, and that's, so you have to follow their rules, and their rules are a quarter inch. Our particular code here says a half inch, but you're gonna have to follow ADA because that's what drives, drives this, thing. So, and theirs does say between a quarter and a half. Once it gets to a half, then they've got a certain angle it's gotta be sloped at.
So, but it can be a half. So, I mean, what if somebody's got,
No, between a quarter and a half. Once it reaches a half inch, then there's a specific, slope that has to be,
What
which is
you're
1 in 12.
What you're saying, Doug, is it don't have to be anything till the half-inch mark.
No. There's a specific, after it reaches a half inch, it's specific on how, what grade it's gotta be cut
Between
at.
a quarter and a half, what is it there?
So,
It's not at the 1 to 12. It's
So if
just gotta
it's-
be ground down.
say it's a 3/8 inch.
Ground or cut or
Okay,
lifted or
say it's
whatever.
3/8.
Pardon?
What if it's 3/8? Is it out of code and needs to be
Sure,
ground?
quarter inch is out of code. Anything between, a quarter inch is the minimum,
Okay.
or the, I should
As
say
soon as
the
it goes
maximum.
over a quarter inch.
Quarter would be the maximum. Once it reaches a quarter, it has to be fixed. Once it reaches a half inch, then there's a specific angle that it has to be ground back at, which is the 1 in 12. So if it's a half inch, you'd have to grind back 6 inches and slope it that way, so.
But we're not concerned about the degree of slope if it's less than a half inch. It just has to be
Right.
ground down so there's not a trip hazard.
Right, we're getting rid of the trip hazards. But ADA it is very specific at a quarter inch is where it's.
So
out of
we need to
compliance.
really make a change to our code then. Is what we should do.
Well, yeah, we could probably make it to exactly what ADA says.
Well, if we're gonna have to operate to ADA, why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's,
I mean,
I mean, it's just an ordinance change that's gonna have to be
we're
made.
conflicting with it
Yeah.
at this point.
right.
But ADA is what's driving this in all the cities, and everybody's going through the same thing, or is gonna go through the same thing.
I thought we just updated all of our codes.
Went to
Wasn't that
2015
included in
standards
it?
on a lot of
One
the
got
electrical
biased.
and,
One got by us.
Well,
Well,
Didn't we adopt the national standards?
but that doesn't have
2015
anything to
standards.
do with those, that's the International Building Code family.
Okay.
This is not, this is ADA, this is something completely different,
Our-
so.
I think what they're referencing is part of the code review that we're going through currently, and that is not, I mean, we're what, halfway through or two-thirds of the way through the city code, looking for discrepancies and
I mean, and if you want to know how this stuff gets marked stuff, I have Jared here tonight that's with the company that did the marking and stuff. And I had questions too, and he took me out and showed me how they mark stuff, and if you measure it right, he's right. Most of this stuff, you know, you look at it, it looks like a quarter inch, and reality is 3/8 or more usually. Not all of it is, but, you know, quite a bit of it is. So, but if you got any questions for Jared, he's here tonight, and he can sure answer them. You know, and I can speak on part of the, why we hired them. They came around and I didn't know there was anybody around to even do this stuff, you know? Nobody else has ever been around and talked to us. But after we hire somebody, then, you know, everybody can do it, so.
I will tell you that this is public comment, or a petition from the public. It would be difficult to advise you as to taking any action tonight. If there is a specific action that comes to mind, let us know, but I'd have to tell you we take all the comment, that's fine, but action is going to be difficult tonight.
On the agenda, this is strictly a discussion, not to take any action tonight. So if you think more about it.
Could we add this to a committee of the whole discussion and maybe talk about making a motion to change the code?
Yep, that'd be the proper way to go.
Okay.
One comment, I think, it being local is a two-edged sword on this issue because you go out and tell people they have to do something, and they're going to get mad, and they're going to tell their neighbors, and you may end up losing more business than you gain on a project like this, because part of the reason we gave till next summer was when this group comes back to look at another ward, they would go out and look at the second ward, and at that point, say these people have not fixed their sidewalk or have not fixed it appropriately, and those citizens are not going to be happy. The tendency tends to be if I don't do it, they'll never come back and follow up on it. As a local business person, I'm not sure that I would like to be in that situation where I have to go out and tell people you haven't done it right, and now we're going to charge you a second time to do it right. I mean, that's just my
Chance you
feeling.
take with any business, local or not local. We have even more of an incentive to make our neighbors happy.
Well, Liz, I apologize. I had no idea. When I entered the council, we were approached by the business, reputable business. They offered to grind, wasn't it the block around City Hall here?
Right, did those
And
repairs.
so they did that, free gratis, and offered to Mark. That's manpower that we don't have to supply. I wasn't aware that your business was involved in that.
Sure. And, that's what these meetings are for, is to hopefully suggest that on the next ward that's taken under consideration, that maybe we just do things a little differently. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Liz.
Okay, next on the agenda is Andy McConnell. As long as you both introduce yourselves.
Absolutely. I am Andy McConnell. I live in Quasqueton, at 311 South 3rd Street down there. And this is Cody Matthews. Go for it, Cody.
Cody Matthews. I live over on Lee Avenue, 1989 Lee Avenue here in town. I look forward to what we have in common right here, is get with y'all and everything on the new vendors marketplace. And we got some questions about that, and we hopefully y'all got questions for us also, and kind of bring you up to speed of where we're at right now.
Okay.
So really, even though, we're here to discuss, I guess, first, if you have questions for us or want to know what's going on, we'd love to hear them.
How's it going?
Great. We're adding more every week, getting bigger and bigger. It's going well. I'm happy with the work I put in.
You requested to be on this, so we have no questions. It's up to you as to what you requested.
So we are having an issue with, I guess more or less a road, I don't know what you want to call it. We really appreciate you guys, the voting and everything you did as far as allowing us the no bond, the insurance. We appreciate all of that, absolutely. The only issue we are now having is we've created this entity that is for profit, and we don't, how do I want to say that? There's also these, I guess Best Way is an example. So Home Indeed had a vendor show. And it was all for profit. It was not for donation to anyone. So 9 vendors got to come to Home Indeed for free and sell their goods for profit. Now, everyone that's coming to this vendor marketplace has been required by the city code to have a license to sell our goods in the city limits. So we have an issue with why are we having to pay for this permit when others don't? And we understand there's gonna be donation organizations, the Indy Park one, that's fine. But when it's for strict pure profit, we now have that entity that does that. So I guess we need clarification as to what this permit in the future is gonna be for.
I think part of it is you're not a fixed base business.
I disagree.
What?
You live in Quaskey and you're doing this in Independence. You're not fixed based at that point, so.
Disagree.
But Home Indeed is a business. They can do in their business and have whatever events they want without having to, we can't tell them what they can do in their business.
So you believe that our businesses are not businesses and Home Indeed is?
Home Indeed is
So-
paying taxes and utilities and all that stuff and doing it on their property.
So if I claim my business on my state and federal tax return, am I not a business?
So.
I didn't say
if
you're not a
can-
business.
If I can clarify, Section 122.02, the definition in the city code specifically references a peddler, a solicitor, and a transient merchant. A peddler is any person carrying goods or merchandise, sells, offers for sale for immediate delivery of such goods or merchandise from house to house. Not what you're doing yet.
No.
I mean, that was not your intent.
Nope.
A solicitor means any person who solicits or attempts to solicit from house to house or upon the public street any contribution or donation or any other, any order for goods, services, subscriptions, or merchandise to be delivered at a future date. And a transient merchant is a person who engages in a temporary or internet merchandising business, and in the course of such business hires, leases, or occupies building or structure whatsoever, operates out of a vehicle parked anywhere within the city limits. Temporary association with a local merchant, dealer, trader, or auctioneer, or conduct of such transient business in connection with, as a part of, or in the name of any local merchant, dealer, trader, or auctioneer, does not exempt them from being considered transient merchant. When we went through this, Carter reviewed it, he gave you his opinion, and under the definition of our peddler, solicitor, and transient merchant code, they are on public property, which, by the way, is, very positive.
Yes.
We have a good spot for them, similar to the farmer's market, complementing what the farmer's market is doing, significantly different than what I understood Home and Deed had done. Now, I might be mistaken, but it is very different from that standpoint. We are allowing somebody to sell product from a public space or door-to-door. And by definition, somebody that predates us on the council felt it was important to license or create a permit so we know who is doing this selling in advance of them being in a public place selling product or merchandise.
So let me get this clear, because we did all but give it to you for nothing.
Yes.
I mean, really, we did.
Well, we
I mean,
did all but gave you money too.
How?
I mean, the park was sitting there not doing anything, and we brought permits in that.
You brought some permits in, but I mean, we, according to our rules and everything, we gave.
We're very nice,
We
yes.
were very generous. Okay, and so we get the permits from you. So we felt that this was a very good way to offer you and the others an opportunity at an extremely low overhead to sell your product. But now, the deal with Home
Home and
Home and Deed,
Falcon
you
Civic
just,
Center, Sanity Room.
so you're just, I won't say complaint, but your issue is that Home and Deed doesn't have to, those people don't have to pay anything.
They don't have to pay anything.
Right.
Well, but I do agree with whomever said it and the mayor. Home and Deed, that's their business, and they can have a window salesman, I assume they had windows and doors and this and that
don't
and
know.
Did you
whatever,
attend?
but they can do that.
No, they were full and wouldn't allow any more vendors.
But I don't think, they probably didn't just have I don't want to say a Turkish bazaar, but they had some
It was
probably
for
people
their
that were
business.
for their
Yes,
business.
don't get me wrong, but the vendors that showed up, that was for their business. They walked in there knowing they were gonna get to take home every dollar except whatever Home and Deed was charging them. So then I'd also like to bring up the example of, before this indie marketplace got started, I wanted to do some research, right? My mom owns Affordable Accounting right on Main Street, so I pop my stuff up and I start writing down how many people look and how many people stop and things like that. And I had 3 visits from police officers in 2 days to tell me I needed a permit to sell those goods on my mom's property. So where is the line on where the permit is and isn't? Because it was my mom's private property, and she was even willing to say whatever she had, I mean, I turned to put the Avon sign down and called it a garage sale, and I still couldn't do that. So I'm confused on what the permit is for, and I'd like it clarified for the future, so that way we don't have these. Because now, like the Falcon Civic Center, clearly I'm gonna bring it up because it's in direct competition, but yes, it's been going on for years. We don't want to stop that by any means, But now we do have these businesses who do what they're doing, and there's no reason for that to happen when those crafters aren't paying anything to go there, and the crafters down at our marketplace, or the farmer's market are. Just like we're paying, and now they're not. It's just, and we're all in the same time frame. It'd be different if the farmer's market was closed, or we're closed, but we're not.
So are
in
you
the
worried about the
future-
competition from these other places?
I'm worried about the
or-
permit. All those vendors should have to pay a permit to sell their goods in that building.
You were
The one-
denied the ability to sell outside your mother's
Yes,
business?
yes, sir, I was. This officer over here stopped.
The issue was city sidewalk, as I understood it.
No, that was never brought to me. Nothing was on the sidewalk.
The-
My mom won't allow that.
The issue that we're facing is, and I don't want to put words in Andy's presentation, but her request of me was that we refund all of the permits that the fees for permits that we had sold, which I think is a mistake. But we reduced the fee for the vendors associated with the vendor market to $25, which is the fee for 1 day's worth of permit. We gave them, in essence, unlimited weekends between now and the end of 2017, however many they choose to use, for the price of 1 day. We eliminated the bond requirement, and we eliminated the application fee for the permit. So we took it about as base as we could get for those permits. The vendor fare at the Falcon Civic Center is not free. The vendors there pay a $30 fee, as I understand it, and I
My
don't think
vendors pay
Bob
a
is
fee
he.
as well to be
but-
in the marketplace.
But they pay a $30 fee to participate in the 1 day a year vendor fair at the Falcon Civic Center. Not every weekend, not 1 weekend a month,
That's.
1 day
I want
a year.
clarification. If I wanted to sell at my mom's on 1 day, why didn't I not get to? I got 3 stops in 2 days. I was there for 5 hours total. I mean, I was like, whoa.
Discretion on that. If they would go there and they keep getting the runaround because the person who owns the place or is the tenant of it doesn't want to come forward and keeps hiding, keeps ducking us something, they might say, well, enough's enough. So if they get a lot of problems, just cite them the first time. Most of my officers are understanding, okay, this is first offense, let's knock it off. If they stop it at that point in time, I'm pretty sure they would probably just give them a warning for it and make sure that it was called, it was logged, so that they understand that if we come back again, we can look back into history and say, okay, we've been there 2 or 3 times for the same thing, or it's the second time we've been there, now they're getting a citation for it.
Because when you give a warning, you actually do write something out and they receive a paper that shows it's a warning?
Not usually on something like that, but there is a call for services generated, because the call will come into the dispatch, they'll start a call for service for it. This address is where it's coming from, so that if we ever have a problem with that address again, we ask dispatch to run that address, see if we've been out there for a disorderly house or any other issues. They can tell us, yes, we've been out there 2, 3 times.
Okay.
The officer will tell dispatch, okay, we've cited him this time, make sure it's in the call. Dispatch will let us know that.
Okay, very good. Thank
Now,
you.
this is not just for noise fireworks. This covers a lot
Covers
of,
a lot of different things.
I mean, domestic fights, I mean,
Yep.
lots of.
Disorderly conduct, fighting, anything that's causes a lot of problems in the community, so.
Well, let's say you're having a loud party, a Hawkeye party in your shed there, and some of the neighbors don't like you. They could theoretically,
They can call, as, if I'm disorderly towards them, it's still a disorderly.
but if it's their a vindictive nature for them to call and say, hey, he's loud, you know, sure, the game's going on in the garage. and-
Okay.
It's not a neighbor's decision, though. It's still.
Right.
And the
Right,
officers
right.
would still have the discretion.
There's been times when we get called for somebody having the stereo up too loud. We get to that area, we don't hear anything. It's now the neighbor's word against this one, so we kind of have to weigh out the options. If it's continuously the same place, then we have a little more teeth that sunk into it. But if it's just once occurrence, maybe we talk to the owner, said, hey, we had a complaint of you being loud. Usually that takes care of it. So, yep.
But that would fall under this as well.
Could.
It could also fall under a noise ordinance.
Yep.
Just have a cyclone party and nobody will bother you.
That's, Problem solved.
Settle down over
I'm a Cyclone fan, you guys.
I am too.
No, but we stay under control, don't we?
Purple and gold for me, folks.
Okay, we are in public hearing. Was there anybody out there that was wanting to address this or get on record their comments?
Address the council or address this,
We're in public hearing in regards to this particular chapter 48.8. So, yes.
Julie Clammer, 511 Second Avenue Northeast. He and I had a conversation Saturday, Sunday, about the neighbors' noise, fireworks. At that time, he said that there was really no written accountability. If that's going to be your plan, I hope that you truly enforce and do get a plan together. Because we do have neighbors that, quite a few neighbors, that we've called a couple of times. We've had the police turn their head. We've had, on fireworks, we've had, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the police officers last 4th of July tell you, you guys were the ones that voted on this, bring it back to the council. Was I correct?
Yes.
Thank you. I personally feel when the ordinance passed last year for people to be allowed to shoot fireworks, I think if the citation issue had happened then, we wouldn't be here. But I'm not sure which one of you, it may have been you, asked how many citations he gave out. And he said no, none. It was a new ordinance. Personally, I think all the guilty parties have been given the fair warning. And I don't think that the fair warning should happen anymore. That if there's a citation in the ordinance, then I feel that our police department needs to enforce it and not make up their own version or take it upon themselves to decide who's going to get a citation and who's not. I think this has gone far enough. And if there's going to be permission to shoot off fireworks, personally, I think there needs to be a permit process.
There's not
Oh,
gonna
that's,
be, so you don't
okay,
have to
that's
worry
the next item that we're going into public hearing.
Okay, this is
regards
just my
to what-
opinion.
Yeah.
Is I also feel that there needs to be liability on whoever receives that. Because if that's not there, I personally am not going to be the one rebuilding my home on my own insurance policy. So
This particular one is in order to start, have one that gives a little teeth. That's why the fines are so big.
we need big teeth because I think
Well,
this has gone on long enough.
$750 first time is pretty big, and $1,000 every time after that is pretty big.
But I think the warning process should be over with. I think if you guys are going to put an ordinance together, it needs to stand.
Oh,
Well,
Common sense, common
I
sense.
got
still needs to
a
be-
comment on that.
Okay.
It's not the city, I think for us to get into a situation where we tell the police chief and all the officers that there's no discretion on their part, write them a ticket, that's a horrible mistake. and I
I'm
don't
not
think
saying,
we'll
I'm
ever
not
do
saying a bad discretion. When all of us in our neighborhood has stood there and watched fireworks go off and the police just drive by and there was
and
no
again,
warning, that's what we're trying to
That's,
say is,
that's
you know, be
next on
fair.
the agenda is in regards to the fireworks.
Yeah,
for a
be
public hearing.
upfront, be fair. If we're gonna talk about the noise with the music, with our neighbors, there needs to be a protocol, which you and I had talked about. And I would hope that that protocol truly happens, because we are getting tired of calling and calling and calling, and there's never anything done.
is what
When
brought
you're
this
t-
to
When you're
us.
talking about this disturbance of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
If you want to include fireworks, that's fine, but when it comes to disorderly house, we need to have some accountability, because we don't see anything ever happening. It's just call after call after call, and it never stops.
And that's because none of this has been on record for us to allow to do that. That's why this is being brought up, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why we're discussing it and voting on it.
I'm giving my opinion as a resident here, that's all. I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just saying we're just tired of it.
Right, right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Julie.
you.
Let me just explain a few things. The reason that Fireworks is a hard, being in law enforcement, fireworks is a hard case to cite somebody with. You have to either see them do it or prove that that person cited them off. You have 30 people in the house and one person does it, I can't give citations to every person there. Now, if we get fireworks shot off in a certain place, we go there when the ordinance in place, the way it is right now, and they shoot off fireworks after hours, they shoot off 2 or 3, you know what, we get a call, we go there, hey, time's up, it's over, you need to stop. Now, if we leave and we come back because they shoot off 20 more after we're gone, now we cite the homeowner because they know it's supposed to be done, but yet they're still allowing it to go on. If you have 30 people in a house and we don't have this in place, and one person shoots them off, and they're all saying, oh, we didn't do it, it was a neighbor. Okay, we leave and it comes back again. How do we cite the one person out of the 30? If nobody tells me that one person did it, I can't give every single person there a ticket. So this will help us do it. That's why we brought this up and to help control that situation so it doesn't happen. So, yeah, when we gave warnings out, it was a new ordinance. People needed to understand the times. We gave a lot of warnings for it. Second Avenue, in the middle of Second Avenue, the west side couldn't shoot them off, but the east side could based on the way the ordinance was set up. So we gave a lot of warnings that time. Well, now we have a little more that we can go with, so.
I think our city, as well as a lot of them, we made some mistakes. We tried something, it didn't work. I guess I would just hope that the residents would look at this as our effort to correct something. This ordinance, you know, is you know, further proof of that, and you know, give everything a chance to just work its way out. I think this will do it.
If this passes through and everything, the first time that the fireworks are, back to the ordinance, the way it's set up right now, when fireworks are allowed, as what it's reading, we're probably gonna have a few people shooting off fireworks this winter, around New Year's. Once hey, this is the new ordinance, and if we tell them, hey, here's the ordinance, you do it again, you're getting cited for this, it should corral that to where we don't have any problems. But we still just have to see how it goes. Hopefully that people understand that if this passes, this is what it's going to be, and it takes the community to also help us out. I mean, some nights I have one person working, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, depending on what it is. And if they're in the northeast side, they're not gonna see something shot off on the southwest side. So they're gonna have to have people calling us, letting us know what's going on, which has been great and it's been very helpful. So we just need a lot of community support with helping it, getting it along as well. So, thank you.
Was there anybody else out there before we close the hearing? And we didn't have anything in writing that we need to put into record or anything
I
like
haven't
that?
received anything.
Okay.
Make a motion to close the hearing?
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Now I need a motion to receive, file, and consider adopting the ordinance for the first time.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion from Grover, second by O'Laughlin. Roll call, please.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried for the first time. Next on the agenda is Chapter 41.13 Fireworks Amendment, and I need a motion to receive and file proof of publication of a notice of public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, second by Grover. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Now I need a motion to hold the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Motion from O'Laughlin, second by Hill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are now in public hearing in regards to the fireworks amendment, or,
This amends our fireworks ordinance to its original language, which states that the discharge of fireworks in city limits is illegal without a permit.
Okay.
okay?
Now, without a permit, we're not, somebody still can't, they can't come up here and get a permit to shoot it off in their backyard.
The permits that we have would be like for your July 4th celebration. You've got a gentleman that was in last spring asking for a permit to shoot off fireworks at a wedding out at Heartland Acres. Those are the permits that we're looking at. It's more of a commercial permit.
With insurance too.
And with the insurance, we know who's shooting it off, we know when they're shooting them off. we talked about liability. It covers all of those pieces that we've had in the past. You won't be surprised if somebody has an application for a permit to shoot off fireworks. Actually, I think they all come to you as a council to be issued. It's not going to a city clerk, so, or a city manager for that matter.
I had a question under regulations. It said it's unlawful for any person to offer for sale, expose for sale, or sell at retail, or use or explode any fireworks. Isn't that contradictory to the state law, though?
There's an exception.
far as for
if you go
sales?
Down a little further.
It's very muddy, though. It says that you can have I don't know, to me, it just didn't, it seems like it's contradictory.
Well, the exception would, well, I turn over to.
Yeah, it's a good question. The state law, what you're typically going to look for with home rule is to see whether the state has explicitly preempted a city from taking action. A recent one that passed was an explicit prohibition on cities passing any law limiting firearms on city property. And when they did that, the preemption was very clear. They said local governments, political subdivisions cannot do this. With the fireworks law, they basically allowed it statewide, but there's not any similar language in that state code that says, and cities can't make a law more restrictive than this.
I thought cities could not restrict the sale, but they could restrict the use.
Well, and so there will probably be a lawsuit where that gets played out, or the people in Des Moines will write a better state code. But I agree with you, it's muddy. That'd be where the argument is.
People that are retailers, they're gonna be upset about it.
So if you wanted to simply eliminate the first half of that sentence in your approval, to say it is unlawful for any person to use or explode any fireworks.
There you go.
Better clarity.
Taking out that portion that has to do with any person to offer for sale, expose for sale, sell at retail. I mean, if you want to take that section out, you
I
have
would
that.
feel better about that.
Then I'd simply ask you to
And
make that.
if you
in your-
want to add one in there that they have to get a permit through City Hall to sell them, which I think we already have, didn't we?
They would get a solicitor, peddler solicitor, transient merchant permit. We had one last year.
That's what I thought.
But if they sell it inside their retail business, they would not.
Yeah, you get back into the same issue. They already need, you wouldn't be requiring two permits. You would require the permit or the license for the transient sale, not for that and specifically fireworks. I mean, you could pass it that way, but you already have a protection in place.
If Walmart decides to open up a third of their store for fireworks sales, we don't issue the permit to do that.
Right.
So are we changing this and taking out?
I would recommend you do that in your motion. If you so chose to approve it on first reading, you would approve it with that change
Okay.
when you get to that point.
Can it be passed on first reading, and on the second reading, we can look at that and see how we need to change it?
You can make the motion to approve it on first reading with that change. We'll make the change. In second reading, it will reflect that change. Theoretically, if you had any other changes to make in the second reading, you have the right to do that in the second reading, so.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
And on this, if they get a permit, it says they have to have $250,000 per person for personal injury, $50,000 for property damage, and $1 million for total exposure. So they have to have insurance if they're gonna get that permit.
Yes. But will that
I
come
would-
out if we eliminate the part about this offer for sale, exposed for sale? Will those insurances also come out?
No, the insurance part would stay in there.
Okay.
I do have to clarify, I think that we have taken all of our total exposure coverages to 2 million, and I think that should be reflected in here as well.
And again, we are an open or public hearing. Is there anybody out there that wants to address this? Please come forward, give us your name and address.
Hi, Vicki Pilcher, 601 Fifth Avenue Northwest. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of all the elderly, the kids, the pets, and people with PSTD. You are doing a good thing for all those citizens, and I want to thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Any other comments or discussion here? And I need a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments.
I'll make the motion.
Motion from Grover.
I'll second.
Seconded by O'Laughlin. Roll call. Or no, I don't need a roll call for that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Now, I need a motion to receive, file, and consider adopting the ordinance for the first time. And when you do make that motion, be sure you put in what you want it to say.
I'll make the motion that we adopt the ordinance for the first time with the language of the selling of fireworks in the city removed. And then also with the total, what was it?
Exposure.
Total exposure insurance at a $2 million.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay. Any other discussion on that? And I need a roll call.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius.
Yes.
Sorry, I got you. Okay, got them all.
Got him? Thank you. Motion carried. Next is a resolution setting date for public hearing on urban renewal plan amendment.
So move.
Motion by Hill,
Second.
second by Lenius. My iPad is not working again, as far as what my next step is. Do we need a discussion on this? Do you need a roll call or anything?
Yes, roll call, please.
Okay.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next is a resolution accepting work covering the curb and sidewalk replacement project. I need a motion to approve a resolution to accept work covering the curb and sidewalk replacement project.
We're talking about the downtown.
This would be the Phase 2 downtown curb and sidewalk. We did add to, excuse me, no, this is just the downtown curb and sidewalk project. You have to accept it in its final form.
This is after the repairs have been made downtown.
My name's Dan Crawford. I'm with Crawford Engineering. This is our project. Just to bring you a little bit up to date, briefly, this project was started this year in April. It was completed substantially in June, and the final punch list items were completed approximately 1 month ago. Tonight, your resolution is accepting the work, and on the curb and sidewalk replacement project, Phase 2, and you have a letter where we have inspected the work. We have given you the total cost, and we recommend that you accept the work. Any questions?
I'll make a motion, we accept it.
I'll second it.
Motion by Kurt, second by O'Laughlin. Roll call, please. Thank you.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next is motion to approve a resolution to adopt final assessment schedule for the curb and sidewalk replacement project, amending, confirming, and levying the assessments.
Okay, this resolution is related. We have tabulated the final cost. We have computed the final assessments for the curb, which is the part of the project that is to be assessed to private property. And we have prepared the plat and schedule, which I think you have. And this resolution will confirm and levy the assessments to the affected property.
As a reminder, if I'm not mistaken, we would send a notice out, a billing out to each property owner that is to be assessed. They would have generally 30 days to make payment of that assessment. If they chose not to make the payment, then it would go on the tax rolls as an assessment.
That's correct.
When will they be sending those out, Al?
After you approve this, they would probably go out next week. We would give them, and again, generally, it's 30 days from the time that we mail that out that they have to determine if they want to make the payment in full or allow it to go on their tax rolls. If it goes on the tax rolls, it's usually over an extended period of time. I don't think it's all due in 1 year, and I don't remember on this one exactly.
It said if this was under $500, it was due in July.
Right, and if it's more than that, then it goes out over a number of years. That
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Hill,
I'll second motion.
second by Grover. Roll call, please.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, I need a motion to approve a resolution to assess property owners for Chapter 52 mowing failure to comply. And Gina,
I do have one amendment to this. We did receive a check for one of the parties, the JP Morgan Chase, today. So we would like to ask that you remove that because we would rather take the check rather than assess it.
I'll make the motion with the removal of the one.
Second.
okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. Next, I need a motion to approve a hangar lease agreement with Chamair Helicopter Incorporated. I'm not pronouncing it right.
Chemair Helicopters has been leasing space in the large hangar at the airport. Their lease has been with Walter Aviation. Effective the end of this month, Walter Aviation is not there, so the lease would revert back to the city if we're going to maintain a lease, which they would ask to do. The lease at $120 a month is consistent with what they had been paying. It is a month-to-month lease, however, they have offered to pay in advance through June 30th of next year on their lease. They've been a good tenant, and I'd recommend we approve it.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Motion by
Second
Kurtz,
that.
second by Grover. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. Next on the agenda is a motion to observe Christmas Eve on December 25th, Christmas on December 26th, a half-day for New Year's Eve on December 29th, 2018, that should be 17, and New Year's Day on January 1st, 2018.
We have a unique situation. Generally, a holiday on Saturday is observed on Friday. Sunday is observed on Monday. Well, this year, we have a holiday on Sunday and a holiday on Monday, so it's difficult to observe a holiday on top of a holiday. We did ask the Employee Relations Committee for their input. They had asked if they could observe Christmas Eve and Christmas Day both in the week of, between Christmas and New Year's, which would, instead of being Friday, they'd asked to observe one of the holidays on Tuesday. So they'd have Monday and Tuesday off that week. They also, we have a half-day on New Year's Eve. They did request that you consider doing that on Friday prior to New Year's Eve, and then, of course, New Year's Day is on Monday.
So they usually get 2 days at Christmas time for,
The amount, the recognized holidays are the same. That hasn't changed, just, because it is not the normal procedure as to when we would observe them. That is up to the council to establish those days. Again, the Employee Relations Committee did make this request, but it falls back to the council to establish the days that are recognized. These are not additional days, standard holidays that we have observed in years past.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by O'Laughlin, second by Lenius. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried. Next is EMT reimbursement contract. Motion to approve an EMT reimbursement contract with Lane, and I have no idea how to pronounce his last name.
Zahoric. Lane-
Sorry.
Lane is a newer fireman with us. He has asked if he can participate, as we did with our previous 8 firefighters who went through the EMT class, where we paid for the class. They agreed to, through a payroll withholding, reimburse us 50% of the cost of the class. If they fail to become certified, they agree that they're going to reimburse us 100% of that cost. He was not here to take it when we did it with the others. He is doing this through Hawkeye Community College.
I have a question. Of the, what did we say, 8 went through it before? How many of them are passed and certified now as EMTs?
They've all passed the classroom portion. And I believe they've all completed the, in essence, the field training, the hands-on.
There's 2 different testings. There's a practical and then a national registry test. One, Roger Kramer, he's completely done. Otherwise, everybody else is still in that half process of between the practical and the written exam.
Okay.
So we get a 6-month or year deadline to be able to get those accommodations. And they're obviously testing sites and practical stuff. It only happens every couple months down at the college or something like that. So
Is he assistant area ambulance now, or?
Lane?
Yes.
No.
Is he doing anything?
No, he's from out of state. He's on a fire service.
No, I mean Roger, I guess.
Oh, no.
Certified.
No.
This was never the intent to assist the area ambulance. This is for the firemen to be able to go out if they were needed and do.
I thought some of them expressed some interest in that, and some of that discussion they had had. But
We did have one that expressed an interest in it, and I believe that they are either will be or are helping area ambulance, but these are firemen that are interested in serving on our first responder program through the fire department, as opposed to being on area ambulances regular shift.
I think it's a good, they're willing to put their time in and put their money into it. I would make the motion to approve this.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion and second to approve an EMT reimbursement contract. Roll call, please.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius.
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried. Next, I need a motion to approve PNN flight training as interim airport management.
We do have an interest from the folks at PNN Flight Training to establish a fixed-based operation for flight training at the airport. Just as a background, we do have an obligation, if somebody wants to set up an operation as a fixed-based operator, under FAA guidelines, we are not allowed to discriminate. Not that that's an issue here, but they do have an interest. They've approached us with an interest in doing that. In the meantime, we also have a situation where we could use some help as in the interim on airport management. I do see Cole is here, but they have agreed and did talk with the Public Safety Committee about the possibility of providing that service for us at a fairly reasonable cost. What they would like to do is have 2 hangars, 2 T hangars on a month-to-month lease, which the lease rate is waived, and have access to the reception area at the airport for their flight operations while they are doing interim work. And I believe we settled on $17.50 a month for wage reimbursement during this interim. This is not a permanent basis. We've talked several times. They would help us with pumping fuel while we're working on putting the self-serve fuel in place. They do the general airport management, maintenance, and what have you. Snow removal is not included in this. It's just the basic management agreement. And come on up, Cole. I think I covered most everything we discussed.
Yeah, I just still wanted to say hi. Cole Norton is my name. We're excited for the opportunity to do flight training. I think you've seen and can be confident that a flight school is what creates that positive environment at an airport. That's what creates organic growth. It will increase your based aircraft as students go on to buy their own airplanes. Many of them likely are business owners. It's a huge economic development tool, and I think the city of Independence, its citizens and airport tenants are really lucky to have a council that actively supports their airport, so I applaud you for that. And we're happy to help, and by, making it easier to provide our service of flight training as part of compensation for assisting in this interim.
Now, maybe a little background on where you're based out of. You do have a branch in Marion, and maybe some background on your business.
Sure. PNN Flight and Charter was started in 1981 by Jan and Perry Walton, and they operated several locations in Wisconsin and eastern Iowa. They went on to buy the Marion Airport, where I learned to fly, and a few years ago I became involved in the business. Currently we're managing Marion Airport. We have a fleet of 11 airplanes, 19 employees. A lot of them are part-time. And they have, among our team, we have 130 years of experience in aviation and tens of thousands of flight hours, so lots of good resources to work with, a lot of knowledge within our team, so it's definitely going to be a team effort here. A lot of the decision that we made when deciding whether to start a new operation in your city is that we have 2 employees that are currently commuting from this area to work for PNN Flight and Charter in Marion. So it's partially a service to them to be able to be employed closer to their hometown or in their hometown.
Would you continue to do the flight school even if we have another person we hire for the
Yes.
managing it, depending whatever the committee comes up with?
Right, and Al was very upfront the whole time. Committees need to get together. All of you need to take a step back and decide what you want to do. We're happy to continue flight training either way, and that's our intention. We definitely intend to place a permanent proposal for airport management if you decide to go that route, whether it's from PNN or another entity, but it will be me personally doing that.
I think one thing to clarify for anybody, we're not looking at 24/7 coverage on this temporary. It's going to be regular business hours, 7 days a week. Am I correct?
Yes, we will provide as much coverage as we can with the dollar amount that we're talking about. Of course, there would be times normally we would already have a personnel staffed for flight school, but above and beyond that, we'll use the resource that you're providing to help cover payroll at industry standard rate.
And you're not going to, your company, you don't offer repair work on airplanes?
No, PNN Flight and Charter's core has been flight training, charter, occasional sales of charts and supplies, but most of that's electronic now. We contract our maintenance to third parties. We do not offer maintenance or employ mechanics. We like to do it.
So people knew what to expect.
Yeah, mostly a flight school, what you can expect. We're giving tours to schools. We're teaching people how to fly from private pilot through commercial, through flight instructor ratings. We have multi-engine aircraft. We're sort of just doing that. We're doing a lot of that community stuff, like the grill outs that have been at the airport.
If in our search, search process, we come up with an airport manager, fixed base operator that wants to take over, and suppose he has his own flight school plans, how is that going to affect your operation?
Well, that,
Because I got a feeling that there might be a conflict there.
sure. Let me just say that it's a federally funded airport. And I understand that at any time there could be another operator, and you can't necessarily say, no, you can't come in and offer this service as a potential competitor coming in. I'm going to be honest with you, they're going to say, oh, there's already a flight school there, and that's the truth, but we do intend to stay. And if you have another operator, we'll just see who's the better one.
Good answer.
I guess, oh, go ahead.
I
go
was
ahead,
at
Danny.
that meeting too. I thought you said that you only required one hangar, one T hangar.
Well, I don't know if I specifically said either way. I know for sure we are bringing one airplane immediately. I also do business with someone that owns an aircraft. He lives in Manchester. He'd like to see it be based and rented in Independence. It's kind of what you feel comfortable with.
Well, another thing, at the meeting, you said you would have somebody there from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Well, you didn't mention that tonight. You're kind of vague on that.
Aviation is it's really a 24/7 operation. If you say we need someone to be there at 2 a.m. when this business jet comes in, those hours have to come from somewhere else, because I'm honestly taking a really huge risk. The previous airport management, $55,000 a year, divided by 12, that's $4,500 a month. We're talking about $1,700 a month. So I'm trying to not place a burden on the taxpayers when you're not sure what you're going to do yet. But I would be very potentially upset by too much criticism about when is someone going to be there or not be there. We're just going to do our best with what you're offering.
Well, when you first outlined it, it was pretty cut and dry. Now you're got a lot of gray area there. That's what I'm saying.
If the question is whether I will say absolutely every day 8 to 5, will someone be there? I'm sorry for any confusion, but the answer is absolutely not with that dollar amount.
That was another thing. I thought you said 750, not 1,750.
Anyone else in that
Was it
meeting?
1,750? Oh, I need to get my hearing.
Well, realistically, how many hours a week in a 7-day week would there be somebody there?
I would say at least 30, but it's going to be more flexible. Like 1 week, maybe it's busier. Let's carry some of that over into the next week.
I think the part of the conversation, if we go back to the committee structure, is this time of year is not the busiest time of year at the airport. Aviation, I think the comment was made, is largely daylight hours, not exclusively. Our runway obviously is capable of doing, nighttime flights as well, but it's primarily a daytime operation.
And
what we are looking at as far as the fueling goes specifically is, and the conversation has been having somebody to assist with the fueling of aircraft until we get the self-serve fueling up and running, recognizing that there's going to be a gap in there. And there's nothing I can do with that. We're still working on on having the right equipment instead of trying to hurry and get the wrong piece of equipment in there for the self-serve fueling.
Do we have a plan for that particular day? The day we're gonna start self-service?
Well, that's what we're working on. I have to have the equipment before I can have a day to give you that plan, yes.
Al, you had mentioned a couple other people who are interested in doing this, but we don't know who they are or what their presentation is or anything.
Well, we have some folks that have an interest in airport management specifically. The reason this came up, and the only reason that we talked with Cole, is because they asked if they can come in and set up a flight training school. They're already coming. I mean, this is something that he had expressed an interest in prior to any discussion of airport management or anything beyond that. As a fixed-based operator requesting to do business at the airport, again, FAA does not allow us to discriminate, nor should we.
Right.
It's just a matter of, do we have mutual interest in the airport being successful in the interim? And that's where the conversation started. So
I'm going to certainly do my best, and Mr. Vaughn, I'm sorry for if there's any confusion. This is not a standard agreement, and I think you would be hard-pressed to find an operator that is going to say, well, we'll be there for 90 days, and we'll invest money, and we'll hire people, but then not be sure if anything's going to happen after that. Or maybe it's 6 months, I can't remember. I'm flexible. I'm willing to do whatever's best for the city, but my passion is general aviation. I don't think this is a money-making venture for me. Hopefully it pays off in the long term. I know there's big shoes to fill. I know it's going to be a challenge. And if you really would like to see that 8 to 5 presence, like you mentioned, again, my apologies. I just don't think that I can do it. I don't think that's feasible for that amount.
It wasn't that I was asking, that's what you said, you know. Well, I'm not asking you to do anything. In your presentation, that's what statements you made.
I think that,
And that very
was
well.
kind of, we talked about general business hours, daylight hours, but I agree. I don't know that he said 8 to 5 or one of us said 8 to 5 generally. But I think we brought this up that we're scrambling to find somebody that knows something about. You said that you would be able to test the fuel when it came in. You could keep up on top of it.
Yes, and I think the transition to self-serve fuel, you're going to have to train airport users how to use that system, work with tech support for that system. It's not going to go perfectly. There's going to be communication. We're going to be there just as a flight school, and people are going to walk in the door and expect me to know what's going on with the airport committee, what's the council going to do, and there's a lot of time to keep up on that. Now, 8 to 5, that very well may be possible, depends if the flight school's busy. I haven't had time to research this market. I haven't had time to advertise, and again, quite frankly, this is it might kind of be a one-sided deal, not in my favor, because we're not getting a big maintenance hangar. We're not going to be able to offer maintenance. We're not getting an apartment. Things like that. I'm just trying to help, and I hope that all of you can see the value in that.
I'm a little bit worried about this whole deal because I can see us absolutely repeating, our history. And, we have a committee that, at least I don't know, how far along they are in the process. And I do understand that, according to law, you can come in here and have a flight school. You can have multiple flight schools, but I also understand that probably the first one to have the flight school is going to have the flight school. So I think as we're going through this process to figure out who we're going to have, are we going to have an FBO, or are we going to have somebody else who wants to have a flight school, and I think what we have done, and by having the flight school already here, whether we do the rest of it, is we have already narrowed down the candidates to do what we want done long-term. And maybe that's just the nature of the beast in the fact that you can come here and have a flight school. I hope that we're not looking at the rest of this, some minimal coverage of being out there to do the gas and everything, because we're in this situation. I mean, you're gonna win this thing by default if we do that. And I think that it's really kind of backdooring the committee. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that we're backdooring the committee.
I think it's really
by doing this.
unfortunate.
I don't know whether we can get out of it,
A lot of us here on the council weren't in on all the committee discussions, so we don't know what everything was discussed. But we feel like we're being backed right into a corner here that, hey, the 30th is coming up at the end of the week, we have to have a plan. But on the other hand, are we making the right decisions? And I don't myself feel like I've got enough information to make an informed, correct decision. Because I just don't have a good
How long
warm
is this
feeling about this.
contract good for?
This is a month-to-month until until the council has a permanent solution.
So if we would hire a fixed-based operator 3 months from now, we would not necessarily have to be over a barrel here, then, right?
If you.
But we are over a barrel because
Wait,
we've got.
let me back up. It's not a fixed-based operator that you're concerned about. It's an airport manager.
You're right. But
Because-
you see what I'm saying?
Right, and the discussion has been very upfront, very open about this lasts as long as there's a need for an interim airport management. That's it. Whether it be 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, 120 days, how fast can that happen once it gets brought to the council? That's up to you.
But the other people weren't interested in it. Were they willing to do a 30-day, a 60-day? We don't even know who they were or anything. We only have like one choice here, when we could probably have at least 3 choices.
I think one of the things here is, one, I'm going to address Mike first. If we go by that philosophy, then the entity that's out there now doing repair work on airplanes should not be able to do it until we hire a new fixed base operator, because they're going to have an advantage when a new person comes in, because they're already fixing airplanes out there. That's the way it is. They need somebody to fix airplanes, and if they like them fixing airplanes. So I don't agree with, if he's giving flight lessons, that's going to drive away a new manager or a fixed base operator, because that's kind of what we went through in the whole first round, was that traditionally we'd only had one person fixing airplanes. Traditionally, we had one person giving flight. That's kind of what's caused a lot of our problems at this point at the airport. I think one of the things we're looking at is opening up the airport to, it's not going to be a closed like it has been for 25, 30 years or the last 2 years. It's going to be an open situation. Now, the second thing we got to look at here is, that's fine. We can all sit here and we can say we need to have 3 people, we need to have 5 people. We have a city manager, we have an airport committee, Denny's on that airport committee. We have a deadline. Whether you think we're being backed in a corner or not, that's fine. If you don't want to approve him, that's fine, but come the 1st of October, then let's not get upset with Al or anybody else if there's nobody out there watching the airport. Now, maybe they're not going to be there from 8 to 5, maybe they're not going to be there 24/7, but the 1st of October, we'll have a whole heck of a lot of time, and we're not talking, he's taking a heck of a chance. Now, if you don't want to approve his contract, that's fine, but let's remember October 1st, let's not bellyache that we don't, that has not got somebody out there.
But that's not, my issue is, okay, to be honest, it really doesn't matter whether we've asked him to pump fuel and stuff like that. And that's where I said, maybe we're backed into a corner anyways by, you correct me if I'm wrong, Cole, the rules, you can just, we can't say, no, you can't come in here and set up a flight school, right?
Bingo.
That's correct, but if I
is
could
that right?
add, you're absolutely correct. But let me be perfectly honest with you. If I ever get the feeling that I'm not wanted here, I don't want to be here. If it's coming from the city. So we're going to have to make those warm, fuzzy feelings happen between the city and my business. Or if I am starting to get the idea that we're not providing the right service, if we're not getting along with whoever else you bring in, I wouldn't want to be here because I do this for fun. This is, it's not a hobby, we take it very seriously, but this is my passion, much like it was Jonathan's. And I think it might be helpful to have complementing businesses. I will certainly utilize the maintenance service that's on field. At Marion Airport, we're not airport management, and we don't do maintenance. They're all separate. And it's a model that's worked very well.
But let me just say one more thing. Okay, so you're out there doing the flight training stuff. I thought I heard you say that, and it's my understanding that an airport manager that comes in, and that's one of the ways that they make revenue is by having flight training. Is that right?
That's an option.
I
Well,
just-
as an
but if-
airport,
He also said if we do that, is it advantageous to have 2 flight training schools out there, or 3, or is it just kind of an unwritten deal that you have one?
as an airport manager, there are a set of responsibilities in managing oversight of the airport. Okay, that's on one plate. What he's doing with his flight training, what Mr. Connell is doing with maintenance.
They're more à la carte.
I mean, that's a fixed-base operator, an FBO. You have any number of FBOs out there. Most of your airport managers, as I understand it, are doing fixed-based operations in addition to the airport management, because airport management by itself is not largely enough to, make a living on in and of itself. When you take a look at what the responsibilities are for Walter Aviation with the mowing and moving snow and all the other airport management pieces, it takes more than one person, so we can talk about that big number, but out of that big number comes hiring people. And what we're looking at here, just to be, again, really simple, how do we cover the gap from where we're at today to when we get to that airport manager under whatever list of duties we want that position to do? And we're looking for a very cost-effective way to do that, that protects the integrity of the airport, maintains the level of service, or as close as we can get to that level of services we have today on the interim. Are there?
Okay, I get that. I get that we have a problem, but are we having a negative impact on the integrity of the committee and the direction that committee is going by doing this? Are you limiting it? Are you changing?
I don't think that there's any limitation. Again, we can be politically correct and talk about all of the do's and don'ts. At some point, somebody is going to come in and do airport management. I hope that we get 5 or 10 more people that want to come in and do fixed-based operations and put up hangars to do different types of operations. That would be fantastic for the airport. Again, I don't see any place that I can tell Cole or anybody else that they can't come in as a fixed-based operator. I don't think that limits us in the long run, because the biggest need identified by the task force, and when we did our public input, was aircraft maintenance. I mean, that was the one thing we heard the most of. They did say we should make sure that there is flight training included in whatever services we offer, because, as Cole stated, that's the lifeblood of the airport moving forward. But there's more types of operations like that. It doesn't mean that a new manager is going to be a fixed-based operator just in flight training or just in aircraft mechanics. There may be other things that are in there. We're also not suggesting to Cole that he has the option to do fuel sales. Well, with that off the table, you know, we're kind of getting him down to where he's just about doing this as a contribution to the city. Not completely. I mean, it's still $1,750 a month, but he's giving up an awful lot of what other fixed-based operators would ask for in the normal routine course of business. The hangar piece, I did not put on the table. I was very clear it's not an option, because I don't want to, as you said, Mike, back us into a corner or curtail our ability down the road. We're reserving that for that airport manager / fixed-based operator that may be coming in. Fuel sales, it's not on the table. It's an interim contract. Not that it's the busiest time of year for fuel sales, but we're taking that revenue stream away as well. Why? Because we're looking to that revenue stream to help cover the cost of the self-serve fueling system and you know, maintaining the airport as we go through this interim period. We have snow to move. That's going to fall back on the city in one way or another, and we've had different suggestions as to what that will look like. But I don't have another solution short of putting a city employee out there for 40 hours a week. And there you get the 40 hours a week, and of course we go into overtime, which we can do. I mean, that's the other option in the interim, is to shortchange another department and put a person out there to do that.
I think this is a good idea. Temporary, it's temporary deal till something comes along. I think it's a good deal. It gets us out of the woods.
But it is temporary. And
Right. And he's not under any illusions that it's not.
I think one thing from the public input that we had at that meeting, not only were some of the expectations, but I think the overwhelming thing I heard was the desire for good customer service. And we have to have some sort of plan B if they're not going to be out there staffing it, and we have tenants that are coming in and need fuel. How are they going to get fuel? Or are we going to have transients coming in here thinking they can get fuel and finding out they can't get fuel?
well, again, we have a window of opportunity to face that until we get the self-serve fuel system in place. We thought we had it in place. We thought we had the timeline licked. But again, not with the right equipment. I'd rather take a extra month of having to find out, you know, figure out how to keep the fuel pumped and get the right equipment, because it's a long-term investment. It's not a 30 or 90-day investment on this self-serve equipment.
I do think too, when you talk about putting someone at a disadvantage, I think you have to take into consideration, if we look at anyone who already has any ties to the airport, usage, or have been a manager in the past, then you really are telling a new person that applies, you know, this person's already got a history with the Independence Airport. I mean, I think you have to, and those are some of the other options of people that have expressed a willingness to work with the airport. They have history with it, whether they fly into the airport, whether they've been there before. And so I think when you start saying, well, the next guy is going to be at a disadvantage, I really think you have to look at that part where we got somebody who has no history. We're getting him dirt cheap, you know.
Sure.
Hate to say that. I mean, you're going to get.
But he's actually getting more than $1,750, because we're talking about giving him a hangar or two, and he's gonna have office space and reception space, and so you
Just
add that in.
just the reception space, not not the office space, to be clear. There is an airport manager office, that was not part of it. It is that reception area in the front.
Well, how about this? If we need somebody to pump fuel, are there any on-call young people that have worked for Jonathan out there that would still be available?
We can
On
definitely,
an on-call basis that Cole could contract with, that we would collaborate with the pay on, so that when he's not available or his staff is not available there, we could set up a fee for service with those people. They could call them, they'd come out, pump the fuel, or take care of that. Would that be acceptable in your mind?
Let me back up a second, because it seems like, understandably, there's a few that are not comfy with this deal. I understand it. I want to answer the questions, because I don't want any, if there's no votes, then we're starting off on a bad foot, okay? I would like to, does anyone have a calculator? Take $11 an hour times 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. What is that? It's got to be more than 1,700.
it is.
So,
Well, I understand that you're
so
not making, that the
you could
money
take-
isn't right. I understand that.
What I'm talking
That's
about
not
is
my
the city
problem.
would cover that PRN basis. Let's say that you
Sure.
leave there at 5, somebody pulls in at 8, they need fuel. There's a young
Sure.
person that worked for Jonathan out there. They're willing to go out there for 12 or 14, 15, whatever we got to pay them like that an hour. They
I
cover
think
that.
PNN has a really a good reputation in the aviation community. I would really like to protect that, and it would be a disservice to my brand to have employees that were not interviewed, hired, and trained by me.
Okay. Well, yeah, if you wanted to do that, all I'm thinking of is, with the limited amount of money we're paying you and the need for coverage, if you could find people within 20 minutes, 30 minutes driving distance.
Sure.
That we could contact, if there's
Sure.
someone needs fuel. All I'm doing is trying to problem solve here.
Right, and we do have that, and this is Spencer, and he lives in Manchester. He is one of the employees that has a strong interest. He's been asking me almost every day, when's this gonna happen, so I can work at the Independence Airport. And if you want 40 hours a week guaranteed, then I need whatever that number is. I don't do math in my head.
2470
And
cover
Let's
$11
look
an
at the
hour.
value of the hangar rental. That's $100 a month.
Yes, sir.
So there's 200, let's say, or office space, which in Marion and a lot of other airports, the flight school doesn't pay for office space. So maybe you see that as a value. It's not to me.
Would the council be willing to, or would Cole be willing to entertain, again, I anticipate roughly 30 days yet on the self-serve fuel, a contract that covered the full 40 hours for the first month until the self-serve fueling is in place, with the idea that the interim airport management would drop to the $17.50 at that time?
I'm not going to throw a curve here, but I think when we're talking self-serve fuel, we're probably going to have to readdress this because that's going to be a lot more expensive than what we were looking at because of the fact that the equipment we looked at didn't work. So I think we need to be careful on the self-serve fuel issue, that's going to be anytime soon. So I'm only saying that is because I don't think 30 days is going to come close, and we may have to readdress the whole cost of the self-serve fuel. So, sorry for throwing a curve at everybody.
Do we
But
still have our grant request out there on the self-serve fuel?
The grant, the state grant,
I can maybe speak to that just generally. The state, those projects score very, very low unless you have a really high match, like the city will match maybe, let's say, 85%, but anything that's going to score higher is going to be safety issues, runway reconstruction, lighting, and things like that. So I would be surprised if he would ever receive state money for self-serve.
When's it looking like the self-fueling's gonna be anyhow?
We're just waiting for the final information on that.
Well, Cole, would you be comfortable with that, hiring a person to be on call in the event that we do have somebody comes in at 8, 9 at night, needs fuel, that there's a number there they can call and?
Yes, absolutely.
And we would make up, my motion would be that we pay the additional financial to pay that person. It wouldn't come out of his $1,750, that would be ours.
Well, here's a suggestion, and I'm going to throw that Cole may or may not. We already have an entity out there that's going to be working. They know the way the fuel system works, I hope, Karen, right? Maybe we can work out two entities a little bit on working with getting this covered, that you're not comfortable with having a person that doesn't know anything about an airport basically coming out and pumping fuel. Is that something the council would be willing to think about, that maybe we,
It seems certainly willing to work with anyone on field for that, but I think you're not going to get that consistency that it sounds like you're looking for that consistency, and that might still leave some gaps.
All
But
I'm looking
open
at
to-
is an out, so that if somebody comes in on a Tuesday night or on a Friday night and they need fuel at that time, there's a number of somebody you feel comfortable with that you've
Yes.
trained
Mhm.
that could come out, and then we would cover the cost for them to come out and do
I
it.
would be okay with that.
Okay,
Who are you
that was my,
Are you talking about call pay, or just if they actually come out for a call?
If they actually come out for a call.
call.
well, what we're looking at here is, we want to make sure that no one entity has an inside track, and maybe they wouldn't even be interested. But I mean, Jim is out at the airport. He's out there every day, pretty much. Maybe some of these hours could be filled in. We're not talking about him working for free, but maybe he would fill some of these hours so that if you don't have the staff
Be
to
happy to
cover
work.
it.
Is he here? Oh,
No,
Oh.
but his wife.
everyone
His
keeps
wife
looking
is
over here.
And I'm throwing a curve at her too, but,
Might as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
you lost control. Or had control.
Pardon me, I had control?
No.
No, never, never. Karen Connell, 312 Second Avenue Southwest. I think I need to clarify a few things for you here. First of all, I'm just going to hit on the meeting of the committee that you chose to, and according to the letter, the airport meeting was to be held to give our, quote, feeling about how the future of the municipal airport operations should look like. Now, I sent a letter to all of you and told you I would be interested in serving on that committee, and I was declined. I am a past president of the Iowa Public Airports Association.
Okay, I'm going to stop you.
licensed pilot,
I'm going to stop you right now.
and I saw those
I'm gonna
operations
stop
for
you.
several years.
I'm going to stop you right now. We are not talking about that committee.
Fine.
The committee is formed as
That's
far as the
okay.
governance.
Now, you
What
have
we are
some-
talking about, how to cover the interim when it comes to be able to pump gas, that type of thing. It was brought up by Bob about the possibility that Jim could maybe help with
understand.
some of
I
that.
understand
And that's
100%.
all we need you to address at this point. We're
It's
not going
just
into any of
whatever-
the other.
When you people don't even understand what an airport manager does or what an FBO is. An airport manager manages the operations of the airport itself. That's checking the runway, checking cracks in the concrete, the lighting, et cetera, et cetera. Everything to do with the airport. The fixed base operator there has been only one fixed base operator at the airport. What does a fixed base operator do?
They run whatever business they are on a fixed-based operator for.
No, a fixed base operator offers several different services. Flight instruction, flight rental, or aircraft rental, charter service, maintenance, fuel sales, and et cetera. That is a fixed base operator. Now, if this young man wants to come in and do a flight school, he's more than welcome to do a flight school. If someone comes in to do an avionics business, they're more than welcome to come in and do that. If there's 3 flight schools on that field, they can be there.
Nobody's
And
arguing.
also can be how many different maintenance people. But Aircraft Restoration and Fabric LLC is not a fixed base operator. It is not offering fuel sales, it is not offering aircraft rental, aircraft or flight instruction, whatever. So there's been one fixed base operator there because that airport cannot, take care of more than one fixed base operator because they offer those services. So I think that you got some confusion going on about what you're doing with this airport. I think the council is confused about what you're going to do with this airport. If this gentleman wants to come in and offer flight instruction, he can do that. With federal funds that you received from the federal government, he has every right to. And if there's 3 or 4 maintenance people that want to come in there, they can do that. You have to be open to them. You cannot show any partiality to anyone.
You know what I'd do? I'd offer this young man a suggestion. I'd say it's your right to come in, if you want to come in and set up a flight school, I'd do it. And I'd stay completely away from the fuel and everything else because it's gonna be a mess. And I think we need to go find somebody to do that.
What are you gonna do at the end of the week?
What?
What are you gonna do at the end of the week?
I don't know what we're gonna do, but I can tell you right now, he's gonna be in a mess if we get into this quasi pumping fuel and everything else. Mark my words.
What has happened in the past 2 months of trying to secure, advertising for a manager / FBO? What has been done? Nothing's been done. Now it's down to catch 'em and count 'em time. And what do? Well, you're trying to Band-Aid something that you really can't Band-Aid. You just got to get your act together and get it settled and get it figured out.
I think it's time that we stop the insults toward the council. Staff will take care of this, and we'll be just fine.
Yeah, no, I think we will be just fine, but I'm a little bit nervous that we're gonna back him into, that he's gonna get into something that he really doesn't want to be in.
If you take this as insults, this is a wake-up call. But if you take it as insults, go ahead. It doesn't bother me any.
You can sit down.
Well, Cole, are you willing to just come up?
Fuel sales wasn't my intention. Like I said, P&N Flight and Charter, the core operation of the business is flight and charter, not fuel and maintenance, not
Right. They
They're
only
not crop
offered,
dusting
they only
and
offered that as
photography.
an interim until we do come up with a final solution and have somebody out there to do
And
that.
like I said, I will be happy to put in a proposal in the future.
Yes.
If you decide that's the way you want to go. I do understand what Mrs. Connell was saying about what she was trying to say about the FBO, but by definition of FBO, anyone that offers a service at an airport is an FBO.
Correct. Any service, yes.
Okay, well, I think we've discussed this to death. We need
Yep.
to take an action. We do appreciate you coming in,
Thank you.
Cole. Whatever happens, don't take an offense at us.
Kind of hard.
I make a motion, we accept the agreement.
I'll second it.
You
What-
want a roll
what
call?
agreement are-
What's
what-
The
the
agreement-
$17.50 per month.
Also, if you don't mind, I would like to give you my phone number in case you have any questions, whether it works out or not. It will be for my office at the Marion Airport, 319-377-8255. 0457. Thank you.
Give me the last four numbers again. 0457. Thank you. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the PNN flight training as interim airport management in order to, as what we had discussed at the 1750, for them to be out there probably 30 hours a week. We need a roll call on this.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
No.
Lenius,
No.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Motion is carried. Last thing on the agenda is a buyout of fuel and equipment from Walter Aviation.
Public Safety Committee recommended a purchase of the remaining fuel in the avgas and Jet A fuel tanks as of Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock at cost plus 25 cents, and purchase of appliances in the apartment, lump sum total of $500 for the washer, dryer, stove, and refrigerator.
You know, buying those appliances, we've never bought them for anybody out there at the airport, so the next person that comes in there should probably be buying their own. We start paying for those. One breaks down, we've got to buy a new one. And they're how old?
Was those yours appliances? No?
No.
Where'd they come from? Don't
The-
know.
Jonathan Bottom, when he took over as airport manager, he just said that if we wanted them, that's what he had suggested. If we don't want them, he has to make arrangements to take them out.
Be a good idea, just, take them out, I think.
Do they work?
Well, that's the question, you know. You don't-
Everything is in working order according to
Right,
John.
right.
Everything is in
I
working
bought a
order.
refrigerator that was working like that too for 35, 40 minutes at work.
Okay, so what are we talking about, the appliances, how much?
It's $500 for a washer, dryer, stove, and refrigerator. It's just a lump sum amount for those four appliances.
So why would, something you guys, but I think it's foolish to say, take them out. If we're gonna do anything, leave them there for $500. If one or two of them don't work, Denny, it doesn't matter. But
Well, you want to
But
put
they-
fish worms in, that's fine.
then I'll use them for fish worms.
Well, you take
But
them out there and you give me
$500 is very reasonable for,
If you
I
need
haven't
that
seen-
stuff, yeah.
Okay, let him finish.
I just think,
Buying them,
I
we
just
gotta buy
think,
'em all the time then.
I just think $500
No,
for these
I
is.
think we say they're furnished with it.
Yeah.
New airport manager comes in.
Yeah.
He's gonna use those, and he doesn't like them or they don't work, they're on him.
I agree,
Yeah.
I
But
agree.
if they don't work, then he's gonna come back and say. hey,
No,
No,
we're gonna tell
no,
them they're as
It's gonna be a
is.
totally different contract.
Exactly.
That's part of the contract.
$500 is not,
We need to be able to close out our contract with
Saying-
Jonathan. It's including the buyout of the fuel that's there and $500 for these four pieces.
Honestly, have no idea why we're paying a surcharge on the fuel.
Yeah, I don't know.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
How many gallons is that, Al?
I can't imagine a gas station operator doing that.
How many gallons is that? You don't know?
I don't know what's out there today.
I thought we said the other day it was gonna be, he was gonna bring in an invoice of what he paid for it.
He was sold his fuel from the prior operator at their cost.
Right.
He didn't pay any carrying
I
charge.
know it, I know it.
I just think that's dead wrong.
Well, tell him to take that with his refrigerator.
It's gonna cost him a lot of money to get that sucked out of there.
No, they'll come and get
Okay,
it.
okay, come on, let's
But he
start
could
being.
do it.
Why is
He
it every
wants to.
time we get on the topic of this airport,
Yes.
it turns into a nonstop argument?
Yes,
All the time.
You finally said something,
yeah.
huh?
It needs to stop. Act like
I'm
adults.
sorry.
But we have opinions, Austin.
Think about
That's
it.
what we're doing.
Austin,
We're voicing our
4 years,
opinions.
you've had it.
Walmart. They pay somebody to come and take their product?
Depends on the product. I pay people all the time to come in and pick up our cardboard bales.
Yeah,
The
that's
fuel,
trash.
the fuel discussion started with the fact that Av fuel is the current fuel that's in the tank. That's the agreement that we have. we can have him suck all the fuel out and buy fuel today. If that's what you want to do, that creates a lot of nonsense personally, but you have the right. This is the same fuel that we would be buying. Chances are, if they came and sucked it out, they would pump it back in, and we'd all look pretty foolish. But you have that right. We have a fuel cost. I don't know what it is today. I'll get a copy of the invoice when I go out there on Friday for the closeout. If you want the appliances or don't want the appliances, it's a yes or no. It's really simple, guys. I don't understand, I don't understand all of the fuss over this.
No.
It's simple. We own the tanks. We have to have fuel in the tanks if we're going to put fuel in aircraft. My understanding is we want to provide fuel for those people that have aircraft at the airport or who may come through our airport.
We don't have a problem buying the fuel, it's the 25 cents carrying cost. That's what we're
Per gallon.
questioning.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the appliances. That's a small issue.
Then
You start talking $8,000 to $10,000 or gallons of fuel and adding a 25-cent per gallon.
Okay,
Carrying charge, I
what
have
I
a
am,
problem with
what
it.
I am asking, I think discussion has gone far enough and we're getting ridiculous. What I'm asking is a motion to authorize the city staff to engage in arrangements and purchase of fuel and equipment buyout with Walter Aviation on September 30th, 2017. He'll know at that time as to what the cost is, whatever. All I want is to give the staff permission to do this.
I'm sorry,
and
Mayor,
close
that's
out
like
the
saying, let's
contract.
pass the health care plan and then see what's in it after it's passed. No.
No.
I'm not doing that.
Put your money on the pass.
I'd like to find out what's in the health care plan.
Yeah.
If the 25-cent handling fee is the hang-up, make your motion accordingly. I mean, that's what was discussed at the committee meeting. That was the recommendation that came from the committee meeting. It's okay. If you disagree and you want to pay invoice price and Mr. Walter decides that isn't the right price, he's got to make a decision at that point. It's not, again, I don't want to berate anybody, but it's really very simple.
Okay, I agree with doing that. Leave the appliances in and give the city staff the authorization to negotiate the price of the fuel without a surcharge.
And to be clear, the negotiation is based on invoice.
Yeah.
There really is no
I mean,
negotiation.
there's not a negotiations. It's to pay the invoice
I'll
price
second that,
with,
Mike.
without a surcharge.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think that's
Yeah,
fair.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay. See?
Roll call, please.
Just one moment. O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
No,
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, we are down to reports. Start with department heads. Dustin, would you have anything you want to share in addition? You have nothing? Okay.
We're on overtime, huh?
I think we are. You said 3 hours.
3 hours. It's been 3 hours and 10 minutes.
2 minutes, 2 meetings.
That's not on me, that's on you guys. Okay.
We got time and a half.
Mr. O'Laughlin, do you have anything you would like to share?
Nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Grover,
Nothing tonight.
thank you. Any more you want to share, Danny?
No,
Sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Mike?
Nope. It's
Everybody's
been a hoot.
tired. It has been. Keeps getting better. Deb, do you have anything you would like to share?
just update on the dog park. We had a event at Checker Flag, bag tossing. We made good profits off that, had a good time. Everybody was great to work with and everything. Then we had a Larson's Golf Course this past weekend. Thanks for you guys golfing. That was a good turnout, a lot of fun again. October 6th, we have a Sanity Room fundraiser. October 7th, we have Pat's Tavern bag tournament again. And our final one will be Pizza Ranch, October 16th. And our grand opening is October 1st from 1 to 3. Everybody's welcome to come out, bring your dog, let the dogs run, have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you for all you've done with us.
For your grand opening, do they have to have memberships to be able to
No.
use it that day?
No.
Okay.
Can you get a rented dog? I don't have one.
If you want to go out there and run around with the
We
dog, you go
prefer
right
the
ahead.
shots, though. That's all.
Yeah. Anything else, Deb?
That's it, thanks.
Bob?
Well, I can tell you that Al is not playing too much golf on Sunday. He didn't carry us. Mike, though, I'm kind of concerned because he played pretty good, so he's been out there a lot.
That's my second time this year, third time in 3 years.
So anyway, we had a good time on that, but again, the minutes of the police station committee, can we make a posting for that, just like we do for the other ones? So otherwise, people don't get to see what the minutes are on it. But we did meet on August 23rd. We went through the jail, not the jail, but we went through the sheriff's office. They wouldn't let us out of the jail for some reason. But, anyway, we went through the sheriff's office. We went through the deputies area. We went down, we looked at the Olds area. I think everybody was shocked at how small the space was in the old police department area. We have, the committee itself decided that we need to move to the next step, that we are looking at, probably we need a police station, but we have several questions that we still have to answer, such as what should be included, where it should be built, and whether or not we can afford it. So we've answered question 1. The next meeting, we're going to zero in on what, from viewing all the different areas we viewed, what should we include in the police station. And then I think we have an idea of where the committee likes. It's getting to be more and more a consensus of where they think we should build it, if we would build one. And that's kind of where we're at this point.
Okay. John, do you have anything?
I'm good, thank you.
John did hit a chip shot that was like 2 inches from the hole.
Right.
He did.
I'm supposed to get in the car, huh?
But his wife wasn't looking at that moment.
Yeah.
So we had to tell it on TV.
Right.
Okay, David, do you have anything else you want to share with anybody? Are you going to be coming now for a period of time?
Yeah,
or
for the foreseeable.
Reassigned to our city?
So, and then we'll give updates as we have updates.
Okay. Thank you. Gina?
I just want to take a second and share with you what your city department heads have been working on, kind of planning for City Week. It'll be October 9th through the 13th. We are reaching out to the schools, and so far have had over 400 kids interested in coming and interacting with the city departments to learn more about them and tour facilities. So that's something that all the department heads are working on. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Al, do you have anything else?
Unfortunately, I have a laundry list for you. I do have a request from David Jordaning. He was not aware that he had to sign in for public comment, and he wanted to address the council because he made a trip here. So I would leave that to your discretion, Mayor. He's concerned about the drainage of the property between the City of Independence and the airport, kind of on the west edge of town, and had some concerns he wanted to share with the council.
5 minutes.
All you want is 5 minutes?
That's all.
You got it. You've sat there so patiently.
You promise it's 5 minutes.
Well, I don't know. Politicians always lie.
We'll give you
You're not a politician.
I'm in good
Thank you,
company
Mayor, for
tonight, I
letting
think.
him speak.
Yeah.
But,
My name is David Jordaning. You still have some farmland southwest of town here, and I drove down from northern Minnesota today to be here. And I talked to Al this afternoon about this idea that I have, and I'm sorry I didn't realize that I needed to sign in. So I've got a map here. I gave I don't know which one of the gals out here had it, but I gave one of these maps, and Bob Hill's got one of these maps, and this basically is Drainage District number 2. And where that falls is, I'll just kind of, and I know maybe you all can't see it, right over here is the airport. Thank you. The airport is right over here. This line this pink line here is the drainage from the Cedar River to the southwest, southeast, and south. And the Wapsipinicon River runs this way. So most of the city of Independence is up over in here. But part of the Agribition Center is right here at this interchange here on Highway 20. And that is in all the way up to the airport is in the Cedar River watershed. And we get this is Drainage District number 2, this whole outline here. And this water comes off of the west edge of the Agribition Center and the theater, and it runs down across this the highway, or the 238th Street, and it is eroded across the ditch there, and now it runs down here diagonally across the cemetery property, and eventually joins in this waterway. This farm is mine right here. This land in this area here is very flat, and the supervisors back in the early 1800s, early 1900s, 1918, decided that this ground needed tile, so they organized a drainage district. This ground from here to here is probably less than 10 feet, and so it's dead flat. And with all the possible increased development up here, we're gonna get a huge amount of storm water running down across there. It already, erodes, takes the residue off of our farmland and takes it into the open ditch area down here.
What cemetery are you talking about there?
Mental Health Cemetery.
That old, it's
You
that
own that ground to the
Pioneer.
north of there?
What?
Is that your field just on the north side of that?
No, it's on the south side of it.
Don't Hendersons have along, maybe I'm not thinking.
Well, there's
the right
that
place,
gravel
but-
driveway that goes from that road to the.
Well, the cemetery, the old road that came from Mental Health is this little road right here.
Yep.
And that road comes off of 238th Street. I believe that road would go right into the cemetery.
Yep.
And so the water that comes off the Agribition Center, it'd been nice to have gotten all you guys out there tonight to see all that water.
I'll bet.
And the other thing, if you question how much water erodes here, the development out here at the truck stop and Cyan Charlie's and all that kind of stuff, that road on the east side of Highway 150 used to be, that ditch that's on the east side of 150, used to be the same size as the ditch on the west side of 150 by the cemetery. Since that development out there, that has cut that ditch, and you guys can see it every time you drive by it. It's 6 to 8 feet deep. I've been in that ditch taking pictures of it. And all that water comes off just maybe 10 acres that's out here. And about 4 or 5 years ago, the airport over here, with the increased hangar and runway and taxiway stuff, you guys put in a storm sewer out there that went down to the headwaters of Lime Creek, so that all the runoff from the airport, the runways and hangars and stuff, didn't wash ditches through the farms to the west of there. And that system has worked perfectly because,
Where's Lime Creek on that map?
Lime Creek isn't on this map.
Oh, okay.
This is Bear Creek, and Lime Creek, now what's not on this map here is the separation from Lime Creek to Bear Creek. That goes over here somewhere. So Bear Creek, down here south, crosses Highway 150. And so what I'm proposing is somehow we wrap our heads around this and put, something in the future. We've got to do something to keep the water from running over the surface and get some sort of storm sewer in there down to the headwaters of Bear Creek, just like you did to the headwaters of Lime Creek over here. And with all this land in the city limits here, out along where the Monsanto plant is and all the way west to the airport, if that ever gets developed, we'll have literally gullies through the center of our farms. And I can't put a waterway in there to take all that water. I tried that a number of years ago with the Soil Conservation Service, and with the acres involved, I'd have to put a waterway in there 4 feet deep and 60 feet wide. Well, this drainage district tile has only got about 2.5 to 3.5 foot of cover over the tile. So I cannot do that. I mean, the land is so flat. So somehow between the drainage district, the City of Independence, and and I don't know what kind of grants are out there, or if there's any grants out there for storm water management funds. But I hope that we can start some dialogue down the road to maybe get something funded through a combination of assessments and grants.
Mike and I are on the Wapsie Watershed Authority, and
that is, the Wapsie Watershed comes here and runs this way. So out there at the Agribition Center at the high spot coming down the
Okay.
street, from the west side of that goes to the Cedar River. From the east side of that, including, the Lynn's buildings, that goes to the Wapsie.
And is there any area in there we could put a wetland or a retention area or something to
Well,
slow things down?
Well, yeah, because I talked to the supervisors a number of years ago about the water running off the Agribition Center and that theater. It all channels down there, and when they first built all that, there was a ditch, a hole off the edge of that concrete up to my waist or higher. And so the supervisor's answer to that was fill it full of rock. Well, that doesn't retain any water, but you're exactly right. I mean, all this.
And that water really should be channeled to that retention pond that they've got right there at Heartland Acres.
Well, that would be.
Should have been.
Well.
But it's below that.
No, it's actually going to the Cedar River instead of the Wapsie. So then if you channel that water to there, then I don't know where this gets into a legal mess. If, as the owner of that property, yes, I would have done that so that I didn't harm the neighbors down below me on.
Gina, do you have a copy of this in the office?
This is ours.
This is ours?
We have a copy of
I've got
this.
one.
No, yeah, you've got one and Bob's got
So
one.
really, you need, it's almost, maybe it's too simplistic, but it's almost like the city's causing a lot of the problems, but we have to have the county supervisors on board to how to figure it. And
Well,
watershed, because it's out there.
Yeah, because the drainage district, the supervisors are the trustees of it. And they're liable for the maintenance and the caretaking of that drainage district. So, two political bodies here that nobody wants to do anything on, and all the while, we just keep getting more erosion on our farm ground.
I think that's something we can take to our next watershed
But
meeting.
we
Dave,
can-
why
we
don't
can
you
talk to them
explain
about
what
it, yeah.
the green dots are?
Okay,
What's your
so
proposal?
what I have proposed, down here at the bottom is the headwaters of Bear Creek. And that is on, what street is that? That's 250th, that'd be 255th Street off of Highway 150. You go west there, and then back in the field is where that creek starts. There's a little bridge here. That's where all the tile outlets come in, and there's a 32-inch tile and a 14-inch tile, I believe, that come in and that drain all this area here. And so what I'm proposing is to put a big tile paralleling our water main, our tile main. This tile was designed to take water as it rains and soaks into the soil, to take the excess water out over a period of a week or two, so that we can farm the land. And storm sewer water just runs off in a matter of minutes. And that's the water that we're concerned about in getting our soil erosion and floating our residue off. And then all that residue and stormwater, or residue and dirt, it comes down here where all this exits in this ditch, and then it flows in an open ditch, and then it silts in the ditch, and then we as drainage district, members, we have to pay to take all that silt and residue out to maintain the ditch, to get it down till it crosses Highway 150 down there. So, and this orange line here was the main line that I proposed, and as it changes, and this is just a proposal. I mean, you can do it in many different ways, but to run a line up so that every landowner here would have a retention pond, and, we have a retention pond out at the airport, and it's all along the west side of the airport. And there's 3 intakes in that retention pond there, maybe 4, but 3 for sure. And that holds all the water till it's metered out through the thing, and all the water that goes out then is clean water that goes to the creek. And if we could maintain little berms along here with intakes, and that's where Crawford Engineering comes in, to figure out how big of a intake you need and how fast you want to drain this to retain the water. So that's all I'm asking, is just have a little dialogue, think about it, because, we've got a whole different thing here now since we're draining city property, or if the city made a rule that said, if you have development out there and have impervious surface, that you gotta retain the water out of it. A little rain garden, like you were suggesting. There's lots of different ways to skin a cat. And I'm open to dialogue about it, and I guess the next thing is, talk to the supervisors, and if I can get them to talk to you guys, then, and I'm not the only person affected. Dave Lynch, who farms your ground out at the airport, he farms all the land down by south of me. This piece of ground right here is mine. Dave Lynch farms this for Maxine Capples. Dave Lynch farms this down over here, that's part of the Roger Hirschberger's land over in Jessup, so.
Well, John, like John said, we're on the watershed committee. We meet in October, and Don Shanka is the supervisor. He's the chairman of it, so.
Yeah, he used to own the land where most of this water ended
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
So he would be, he would be able to share, some of his experiences with that too. So, just kind of keep it in mind. And thank you so much for
Thank you for driving down
Thanks for
here.
making the trip.
Yeah.
Well,
And your
it's
patience
400
for this
miles
meeting.
away, And I knew I wanted to be here tonight, so thank you all for.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
We appreciate
Thank
you
you.
waiting
Thank you.
patiently for the meeting.
Sometimes
Okay, Al, what else you got?
Very quickly, Bland Boulevard is supposed to reopen this week.
It is today.
They opened
Oh,
it
yay.
today? Okay, there was a question on the marking, so that's a good thing.
Barricades were down and it traveled on today.
Highway 150, not so much this week and next. They're doing their patching project. If you tried to go 150 north, you ran into the one-lane traffic. I'd just say if you can find another route, as much as you can, please do. They were using flaggers, and I know it backed up traffic pretty good on one-lane traffic that way. But that's about well, it depends how much rain we get, but they thought about a week and a half project. And there's a community survey I think I just got an email tonight while we were sitting here about the final draft, addressing the questions and the concerns that you had for correcting some minor things. The survey is tentatively to come out next week, and they're hoping to have the surveys completed within 3 weeks of them coming out. We will have a link on our website for the community survey for those that do not have or have not been randomly selected to complete the survey. Anybody who receives the survey is eligible. Iowa State has agreed to put some random drawings of gift cards in the mix. So if you have a chance to fill out a survey and you are selected to fill one out, then you're eligible for the drawing.
How many were they gonna send out, Al?
I don't remember the number that are sent out. I know that they have to have 319 completed surveys to be a statistically valid survey of the random ones that are sent out. Now, if anybody fills it out online, they will tabulate that information. It is not necessarily part of the 319 random. They have to be separate, but anybody that's willing to take time to fill it out, we'd appreciate that. It's an interesting survey with a lot of good information, but.
I think, you know, if you mentioned, I mean, we're asking what people want for their where they want their money spent, how they think things are being done, department level. I mean, it's important feedback if they fill it out.
Absolutely. This is, again, the discussion was this will help us with our budgeting process when we get into December and January. There's a lot of information here that should help guide those decisions. There will be some challenging decisions to be made this year, and I think it's important information. So, again, anybody that gets the survey, fill it out, send it back in. We very much need your input.
So we will not put it on the website for people to use until after the random ones have been mailed out, so people don't fill them out both. Because if they fill out on the website, they're not going to be part of the drawing. If they get a random one, they need to get those returned because we need at least 319 of those returned.
Right. I'm not sure we'll have the link to put on our website
Until
those are mailed out, but again, I anticipate that mailing to be next week.
Okay. Okay.
Well, she said that she can determine whether it's a random selection one or whether somebody just goes in and does it to give some feedback on the website.
Okay.
So she can separate those.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. I have 3 things that I want to bring up. Number 1, I want to put a shout out to a Brad Constant from Constant Construction. When I came back from meetings in Waterloo, I was able to watch the homecoming parade, and he was parked next to me and showed me about my tires being flat and how much trouble I was in and helped me through the process, so I thank him for that. The thing I'd gone to that day was at the Grout Museum District, and it was a recognition, 2017 National POW MIA Day, and it was recognition of people, and we had a gentleman by the name of Eugene Jones who was to be recognized. I sat there through the whole thing. Everybody that was recognized afterwards, we said that they would not be forgotten, and they went through all the counties except Buchanan County. So Eugene Jones was forgotten that day completely, and I wanted to make sure he wasn't. He was born in 1933 in Des Moines, but he moved here to Independence, graduated from Independence High School, immediately went into the service, and within 2 years he was killed. And he's actually missing in action. They never did find his body and such, but in case there's any former classmates and stuff, I wanted to make sure he left no family members or anything like that, but I wanted to make sure personally that he was not forgotten. And my third thing is I talked to Doug tonight, and so we are having open burn time will be from October 7th to the 15th. So it goes through 2 different weekends, and then we still would have another week that we could do later before the year is up if we need to do that. But that will be our open burn time. I know people have been asking about that. I wanted to make sure that we have that open and that it gets in the paper to that degree, so the 7th through the 15th. And I have nothing else, so I will ask for a motion finally to adjourn.
You've got her.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. We're out of here.
League of Cities, what time are we leaving on Wednesday?